Hello and welcome to Dear Franny podcast. I am your host, Francesca Hogi. So you might have heard that I have a book coming out on April 8th of 2025 called How to Find True Love. And the book has 4 parts to it, and each part is a step in this journey of making the love that you want inevitable. And the first part is mindset, so it's how you think about love. The second part is heartset, so it's about how you feel about love and about yourself. The third part is soulset, so that's about your connection to a higher love. And the fourth part is skillset, and that talks about actual foundational dating skills like flirting and how to choose the right partners and how to have good dates and how to take, dating self-care, which is something that I've talked about here on the podcast before. And, I don't read a lot of dating books. Actually, I don't read any dating books, but I have read a couple in my day, but not for a long time. But I think that, one of the things that makes my book different is that the first 3 parts of the book aren't explicitly about dating. It's about all of the inner work and all of these aspects of ourselves, all these different dimensions of ourselves that play into what happens in our dating lives, in our love lives, in our relationships. And, we are a society that's very much, we're always looking for shortcuts. We're looking for simplicity. We're looking for the 5 things or the 3 things that you can say or do to just make sure that you get exactly the outcome that you want in your relationships. And as you might have noticed by now, it's not that simple. And I see a lot of people really actually block themselves from having the love that they want because they are so quick to try to just jump to, well, what do I do? What do I say? What's the message to send? It's kind of this rules mindset. So you might remember the book The Rules, which was a book that came out in the 90s. And it was all about these dating rules that women are to follow in order to get men to choose them. And there were a lot of books in the 90s in that kind of vein, Why Men Marry Bitches was one of them. Even a little later on the book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, and a lot of books that are still, by the way, the biggest selling dating books. I mean, if you go and look at, the charts of the top selling love and relationship books, these books that are 20, 30 years old are still the top selling books. And I think what those books did really well that makes people turn to them is that they really try to present this super, super simple formula, like if you just wait a certain amount of time, to call someone, if you wait a certain amount of time to have sex, then, all of these rules, right? It's all these very strict rules. And, I think that there was a time when that made more sense. I mean, look, I never co-signed these philosophies or approaches. However, I do think there was a time where we did have a lot more sameness, a lot more consensus about what relationships were supposed to look like, what the dynamics were supposed to be. I'm talking right now about heterosexual relationships, so not trying to be so heteronormative here, but that was the culture. Like that was really all that was talked about. So everything was framed as this, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. That's another example of one of those, really big selling books that still sells a lot of copies today. And, if there was a time where those frameworks and that level of simplicity worked, then that time has passed. And I think we can all agree that we are in a new era of dating. We are in a new era of relationships. Things are not so simple. They're not so straightforward. I mean, look, if we really want to go back, if you want to go back, 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years ago, things were simpler because the rules that we all occupied in society were much more clearly defined. So, back then, sure, it made sense if you wanted to follow this very 1, 2, 3 kind of pattern or roadmap, because that's how things worked. 1,000 years ago, people were not going around, looking for the love of their lives and their soulmates. People were getting married at very young ages, and they were procreating. They were having children at very young ages because that was the culture and those were the needs of the time. We are not there anymore. So now we're at a time where we have much, much higher standards and expectations for the romantic relationships that we exist in. So now we do want to be with the people that we love the most. We do want to have friendship and intimacy, and we do want to have a very fulfilled life and have very fulfilling relationships that are beyond the transactional nature that romantic relationships, and particularly marriage, because marriage was the goal for, much of human history. That was the goal, was to get married and to have children. That was how life was set up, particularly if you were born a girl. So, but for men too. So obviously that's not the way things go anymore. So now we're in a new era, and we have higher standards. We have higher aspirations for what we experience in our romantic partnerships. And that requires us to approach romantic relationships in a higher way, with more skill, with more intention, with more of a holistic approach to relationships. Just as we want to have these very holistic relationships that fulfill us in all of these different ways, we can't then think that there's going to be some simple 1, 2, 3 step formula that's going to get us there, that doesn't require us to actually go deeper beyond the surface and actually look at ourselves, look at our own minds, our own hearts, right? Our own souls, right? Just like the book, and our own level of skill at actually creating the relationships that we want. So that's what the book is about, is how to actually really create the conditions within yourself, and then combine that with your intention for romantic partnership and your skill at making romantic connections. And that's how you actually make the love that you want inevitable. That's a big, that word inevitable is a big thing for me. I don't believe in this crapshoot, just keep throwing things at the wall and just hope it sticks and just hope things work out. Cross your fingers and expect to get lucky. I really believe that we can make our own luck in love, which is what I talked about in our last episode of, answering this question of, is true love something that everyone can have? And my belief is absolutely yes. But what I want to talk about today is a really, really, really huge blind spot, a huge missed opportunity that I see so many people experiencing, leaving on the table, overlooking, and that in their love journeys, and particularly in the dating journey, right? When you're in this process of actually going out into the world and and seeking the right partner to build the right relationship for you, and that is your intuition. We are so deluded in our culture to think that we are these super logical beings and we just need to think ourselves into everything, and that our minds have the answers to everything. And beyond the fact that we're actually very emotional creatures, and our subconscious is actually what's making 90% of our decisions in life. So we're a bit deluded to think that we are as, quote, rational and as logical as we think we are. But we also are delusional in thinking that when it comes to love, which is something that is inherently spiritual, and what do I mean by that? Love is not physical. It's not tangible. You can't fill a cup with it. You can't put it in your pocket. You can't dig it out of the ground, right? It is something that you experience. It's something of the spirit. It is something of the soul. It is something that is very tangible in our experience of life. However, it is not a physically tangible thing. And so it is spiritual in nature. And if you think about if you think about it that way, then it also makes sense that our spirits and our intuition, our inner wisdom, these unseen but very, very, very real forces that are a huge part of who we are and our experience on this planet, that is a big part of what needs to go into our love journeys, into our decision making, um, into just leading us to the people, to the places, to the opportunities that are actually going to bring us the love that we want, the partnership that we want. I mean, I'm talking on everything as basic as a level of, you feel a call to take a writing class and you don't know why, because maybe writing or creative writing doesn't have anything to do with your work or anything you've ever done before, but there's something in you that's just been having this desire to take a creative writing class, for example. And you might say, oh, well, there's no reason for me to take that. Or you might say, well, what I'm focused on right now is meeting a partner. But maybe there's something that is going to actually unlock within you by taking that creative writing class that's going to lead you to meeting that great partner. Maybe that partner is going to be in that class, but even if they're not in the class, it doesn't mean that that experience is not relevant. And I think there's so many ways in which we feel this intuition, we feel this call to have certain experiences, to go places. This can be on a very micro level of, I just, I don't know. I wanted to see this exhibit. So I'm going to go at this museum. So I'm finally going to go see it. Who knows why you're being drawn to go see that exhibit? Maybe it's just because you like that artist, and maybe there's something more that's there for you. Maybe you are going to meet somebody at that museum. Maybe you're going to meet who's going to be an amazing partner for you. Maybe you're going to meet someone who, you have a casual conversation with, and they say, oh, if you like this exhibit, you should check out this other exhibit at this other museum, and maybe you go there and you meet your partner. I think there are all of these breadcrumbs that are always being presented to us in our lives. And if you have a strong desire to be led to the right partner, then you really need to listen to these breadcrumbs within yourself and start to trust that inner wisdom, that intuition, that those inklings, that those pings, that those downloads, that they have purpose. And that's one level of intuition that I see so many people overlooking. I was talking about this with a client yesterday. We had a session, and he has an intuition about this place in the world that he feels very drawn to. And he went there, and he had an amazing connection there just with this place and with the people there, and he felt very at home there. And he's had this idea for years that he wants to go there, and he actually thinks he might meet his romantic partner there, like his future wife. He has this feeling, and he's like, am I crazy? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know if that's crazy. I'm crazy. Like, go for it. Like, why? If this is something that's been in your heart for years, like, why not? Because there's something about it, even though we can't absolutely predict. And maybe he's going to meet his future wife in this place, and maybe he's not. But the point is that there's something that is calling him to be there, to experience life there. And so since you can follow that breadcrumb, then why not follow it? And I just think that that's just something that so many people overlook. Another example of this is dating apps. Like, a lot of people will say to me, I just don't think that my person's on a dating app. And that may be true. And that's actually an intuition that I always had as well. I didn't really think that I was going to meet my forever partner on a dating app. Not that it's not possible, because people do it every single day. It's just for me and my own intuition, which I'm somebody who's very, very guided by my intuition. I just felt like it's just going to be in a more unexpected way. That was my intuition. However, it didn't stop me from being on dating apps when I was single and I was dating, and I've been on dating apps. I've used online dating at a number of times in my life. So I'm not saying not to do it, but I also was like, I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to keep my eyes open, keep my ears open, follow my intuition, follow those breadcrumbs, because I just intuitively felt like I was going to be in a very unexpected place, and unexpected way was how I was going to meet a partner. And that is, by the way, how I have, I mean, when I think of like my three most significant romantic relationships, that's how they always happen. They always happen in an unexpected way, in an unexpected time, in an unexpected place. Um, and and I think that, I can look back and I can see how, oh wow, yeah, I can see the breadcrumbs that actually led me to being there. I can see the intuitions that I followed. Not that I knew, oh, I'm going to go to this place and meet a great person. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there was something in me that felt called to have these experiences, and they also turned out to be places where I met people who I wound up, falling in love with, and having great relationships with. So my point is that that's one level on which I see a lot of people just discounting those impulses, discounting those breadcrumbs, because you're so attached to, I have to go these certain steps. I have to be on a dating app. I have to go to a place because I think this is where I'm going to meet someone, but it's not where I'm feeling called to be. I just want you to think about, what is this relationship that you have with yourself? What is the ability that you have to trust yourself? What is the ability that you have to notice the difference between a whim or something that you're really feeling called to experience, and to see the value in the different experiences that you have. And that's one level. And then there's another level of when you're actually meeting people. I mean, I have worked with so many clients who have said to me things like, well, I don't even know if I really like this person. But after they've already spent a lot of time and energy and effort trying to make things work with them, and they just feel like, oh my gosh, I met someone, this person's available. They check these boxes. Like, I want to make sure it works. And then when I ask them, well, what do you like about them? And they're like, oh, I don't really know, because they're not actually checking in with themselves. It's like, well, how do you feel with this person? What is your heart telling you? What is your intuition telling you? What are the things that you are sensing, that you are overlooking, that you're discounting? I mean, I think we've all been in the situation where you met someone and they said something or they did something, or the way that they were showing up just didn't really sit right with you, but you just talked yourself out of it because you didn't have any concrete evidence on which to base that feeling. And then down the road, you're like, oh, okay, I actually kind of knew that from my first date. I had to date this person for 6 months before I was able to actually understand why I had that intuition. So, and my classic example of this is the one guy that I dated who I totally overrode my intuition with. I did not like him. But I didn't understand why I didn't like him, because he checked all the boxes. He was good looking. He was this, he was that. He was seemingly very into me. He was somebody who had interest in me for years before we actually ever started dating. And I would say to myself, I'm like, I just don't know why I don't like him. Like, I don't know why I just didn't feel it, but I just couldn't understand why I didn't feel it, because on paper and based on appearances and how he was showing up when he was courting me, it seemed like, okay, this is just somebody, this is exactly what I say that I want. So I convinced myself that I was being avoidant, right? I was like, well, maybe this is just me, not liking him because he actually likes me and he's actually available. And so I forced myself to date this person. And long story short, it wasn't good. And the culmination of this experience was him standing me up in a restaurant on my 30th birthday. So very memorable 30th birthday, got stood up. And, before I had gone to the restaurant, I got a text message from him and he said, oh, I'm running a little bit late. I'm leaving work now. Traffic is bad, but I'll be there. I'll be there soon as I can. And he just never showed up. And I remember so clearly once I realized, like, oh, this dude is really, this dude is really standing me up on my birthday. Like, I'd never been stood up before, but then it was like, this just, it being my 30th birthday, it just seemed particularly significant. And I just thought, this is my fault. And I didn't mean my fault, and I wasn't shaming myself, but what I meant was I knew that I did not like him. I knew that there was something about this guy that just didn't sit right with me, and I did not listen to myself. I didn't listen because I didn't have the evidence. And then I had the evidence, and I was like, okay, great. I think that I actually, as far as not listening to your intuition can go, I think I got off pretty easy. I certainly wasn't heartbroken. I actually remember feeling a bit relieved, like, oh, great. Now I literally never have to see or speak to him ever again. Um, and I didn't, I actually did run into him once, I don't know, long time later. And he had the nerve to try to sidle up to me and like flirt with me. And I just was so aghast that he even would think he ever had a chance to, be in my orbit ever again. I was like, I just kind of looked at him, gave him like a stink face and walked away. And he did call me once months later. So glad I don't answer unknown numbers. And he left me this very casual voicemail message like, oh, hey, oh, we haven't spoken in so long, but I actually moved and I live in your neighborhood now. Like, let's get together. And of course I didn't respond. But anyway, that's an aside. But the point was that was such a blessing, actually, because number one, I didn't have to see him again. And number two, I never, ever overrode my intuition about someone ever again. And I never felt this need of like, well, if I don't like this person, but I think I should like this person, but I've got to just hang in there. I just never did that again. I was like, I don't know why I don't like this person. I don't know why they're not resonating with me. I don't know why I'm not enjoying their company, but I'm not. And that's what I need to listen to. That's the important piece here. So I tell you this story and I share all of this to encourage you to really, number one, to reflect on the times in your life where, and it doesn't necessarily have to be related to dating, but that is helpful. When did you not listen to yourself and what happened? When did you listen to yourself, right? And what did happen and how did that feel? And what are you feeling called to do? If you are at a place in your life where you have set this intention to have a romantic partnership, then it's time to now then say, okay, intention set. And really, I want you to think about really embodying the belief that the love that you want is possible for you. And now you are just getting excited about, okay, well, I don't know where I'm going to meet this person. I don't know who this person is. I don't know how we're going to meet, but I know that we will meet, right? I don't know how, but I know it's going to happen. So my job is to open myself up to the ways in which that might happen and to pay attention to myself, to my inner wisdom, to what I'm being called to do, and not to get into this like, well, what is taking this class have to do with dating, or what does taking a trip to this place have to do? Just it does. You don't know. You can't know everything. These things are not knowable. I promise you that when you meet someone great, and you can reflect on this in your life, it's never in an expected way. I mean, even if you meet somebody on a dating app, you're going to be surprised, right? You're going to be surprised by how it happened. And so knowing that you're going to be surprised, knowing that it's going to be unpredictable, then just embrace the unknown. And rather than try to control by thinking that you can just follow like 3 simple steps, just let go of all of that and just allow yourself to be guided to what it is that you are manifesting. And that is an amazing true love partnership, because that is how the universe is working. It's not to just deliver somebody in a box with a bow on it, just at your doorstep. It's for you to actually open yourself up and to listen to that intuition and to allow yourself to be guided to that person, because that's how it works. It just is. It's just how it works. So that's what I want to share with you today. I hope that this has been helpful. maybe it's giving you some food for thought. Maybe it's giving you a little inspiration. And I've already said this, but I just really want to drive home this point that, because, you know, a lot of times people will say to me things like, well, I really like yoga, but, you know, going to yoga is like, I'm not going to meet anybody in a yoga class. First of all, you don't know if you're going to meet somebody in a yoga class or not, but you also don't know what the connection is to you nourishing your body in that way, how that's actually going to impact you and actually going to make you more receptive to actually getting that intuitive hit, or to having that, you know, that impulse to do something else that is going to lead you to that person. So let's not be as attached to specific outcomes, but to see that there is a larger purpose to your life and to all that you're being called to do, and that love is really there's always an opportunity for us to grow in love, and sometimes that's not going to look the way that you think, but it all has meaning. And it's so awesome when you can look back and you can see, oh, all of the breadcrumbs that led you to meeting a really amazing partner. Because that's how it works. I don't make the rules. I'm just observing how life and the universe and how romantic relationships come to be. And I actually think that the unexpected nature of it is really beautiful and exciting. So I hope that I can encourage you to feel a little bit more excited and maybe a little less anxious, or a little less like you've got to control and guess, and just allow yourself to be and to be guided. All right. Thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, follow the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, left us a review. We love hearing from you. Or share the podcast if there's anybody that you think in your life who would benefit from it. I'd so appreciate it. And of course, be on the lookout for How to Find True Love, coming to you April 8th, 2025. And yes, you are going to continue to hear a lot more about it. So stay tuned for that. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world.